There we go.
Oh, it's just there. Okay. Okay. All right. So anyway, we're into our fifth presentation. This is Coach Chris Whitaker. Dexter High School. He's also he's a coach and a teacher there. I like this title. Reminds me of The Office. Iron Dread. This is the way. The Iron Dread method of high school strength and conditioning. Remember the fun run from The Office? Take it away, Coach.
Thanks, Coach. I don't know if I need this. I know we talked about folks in the corners being able to hear. We want to, how are we doing? Corners? Use the mic? Got it, Coach. All right. So as Coach said, my name's Chris Whitaker. These QR codes on the screen, I think somebody was talking about business cards earlier. This is what I use for that. This is a free service called Hi Hello. If you scan that, it'll not only give you my contact information, but it'll also prompt you to send me back yours. This has on it, the very first thing when you look at this, has all these slides that we're about to go through. All right, and this is cool because it does everything, all the different things you could possibly want and need. And I'll put it up again at the end of the program here. We were connected. Hey, here we go. All right, so goal today, right? I want to give you guys an overview of our program, kind of what we do, top to bottom, right? Kind of what our goals are, how we train, what a training day looks like, and why it works for us at Dexter High School. We have 24 different sports at Dexter High School, and all of our kids train pretty much the same because I believe strongly that high school strength and conditioning and most strength and conditioning in general is GPP, general physical preparedness, that prepares them to be a better athlete. And our conflict of interest, the stuff that we're all supposed to go through, and I'm going to do what everyone else has done today. There it is. What's our mission? We want to achieve athletic excellence through a systematic conjugate training approach that's going to enhance both mental and physical performance of our student athletes while minimizing the risk of injury. We're a conjugate school. We've trained conjugate method our entire existence here. This is our 9th year at Dexter High School, and we've run conjugate a majority of that time. We are a year-round program. We service kids as young as 5th grade, all the way up to alumni kids that are still training with us even after they graduate. Right? What are our goals? Our 4 goals. We want to develop a culture of strength. When we got to Dexter High School in 2017, the football program had not won a game in 5 years. There was no culture of strength and conditioning in our building at all. There was one strength and conditioning class. It had 12 kids in it. Trevor O'Brien was our athletic trainer. He can vouch for these statements that I'm making. We wanted to develop a culture where our kids valued being stronger humans. Right? That was our number one goal. We want to build confidence through training, reduce our risk of injury, and we want to become an integral part of every athletic team. I'm going to be honest with you guys. That's something that I'm still working on. Right? Trying to become an integral part of every team, which I'm sure many of you are fighting the same struggles if you are in high school strength and conditioning, getting 100% buy-in from all your sports. What have we accomplished? I'm not going to read you all these things. We started our conjugate model. We've gotten stronger. We've reduced our injuries. We've had multiple grants through our educational foundation that has helped fund our room. We've taken kids to the Arnold Sports Festival on field trips to help develop that culture. We have a podcast, a radio show on Fridays, Iron Dread Radio, right, tune in, where we broadcast the music from the weight room out over an internet radio server. The podcast, kind of going back and forth with that a little bit. We talked about how we had one section with 12 kids in it. Now we're up to We're block schedule, so we have 4 double sections where there's actually 2 of us on in the weight room where we can take up to 70 kids at a clip. Every block of our day has a strength class. We also have before school and after school training for kids to try to get everybody in there. I think I talked about Iron Dread Strongest contest. One of the things, the guys here from U of D here talked about that they do all these challenges. Well, that's something that we do too within our program. Each month we have a strongman style challenge. The one for the month of March was the Denny Stones. Right, so we don kilts and have a good time lifting the Denny Stones. We'll talk more about that. If you want to ask about that, I can tell you. 17, 18, 19, this is our first 3 years here at Dexter High School. They dropped, we've had a lot of turnover in the athletic training room since we lost our guy, Trevor, my guy. So I haven't gotten the data for the last 6 years, but I can tell you what it looked like just from seeing our kids. We trended down. Right, this little thing happened in 2020 where a lot of kids stopped training. Right, I'm sure you guys remember it. Right? And those injuries went back through the roof. And then over time now we've been able to slowly click them back down. Soft tissue things, a lot of stuff we haven't had as frequent of those things within our building, at least within our compliant populations. So what's the conjugate method, right? If you're unfamiliar with the conjugate method, we're going to train year-round, right? Multiple special strengths within the same cycle, okay? Not just in periods where we work on hypertrophy and power and max strength. We train them all together, concurrently, trying to raise all things together within the weekly model, monthly model, annual model, right? All through their high school career. Okay. Why do we like the conjugate method? Well, all of us have seen this chart over here on the left side, right? And for those that can't see it, right, it's that volume and intensity scale, right? High volume, we start the cycle with high volume, lower intensity, right? 4 to 6 weeks goes by, right? Then now all of a sudden the volume starts to drop, the intensity starts to go up for another 4 to 6 weeks. Then another 4 to 6 weeks later, we get into the power phases, right? That intensity's going up, volume's dropping some more. We have a peak cycle, have our big event, deload, rinse and repeat. Well, any of us that have spent some significant time training, right? The hypertrophy and muscle endurance stuff that we did to that 4 to 6 weeks in the very beginning, is it still there 6, 12, 14 weeks later? Not as much, in my opinion. Right? That's why we like the conjugate method. Right? We have maximal effort intensity in our training all the time. They're always touching those high intensity loads. We have dynamic effort waves where we're moving at 2 different speeds, and we'll talk more about what those are, to build our power. And then we have high volume work within our accessory movements that are usually small single joint exercises, which are much easier to be recovered from. It's always there throughout the cycle. Okay? Why do we like this? Right? Helps us to prevent burnout. Right? We're constantly changing bars, bands, chains. Within our room, we have 5 different specialty bars. Obviously, we utilize a straight bar, a safety squat bar, a multi-grip camber bar, the American bar, a buffalo bar, or a, what is Chris Duffin calls it, a Duffalo bar, right? A bull bar, rackable cambered bar. Right? We rotate through all these things, and we do many different bench press and squat variations with those as our main movements. And usually those main movements are going to be our areas where we get the most of our maximum effort work and our dynamic work. But we can constantly rotate stuff. Our kids break records in new movements every week. What's not to love about that? We're going to work up. We're going to break our yoke bar squat max to a 16-inch box this week. Next week, we're going to drop the bar to a 14-inch box with the same bar, break a new record. Win. All right? To me, that's fun when they can see that. One thing I will tell you, we have so many different things, we have to go back and show them sometimes. And we utilize Team Builder for that. Hey, last time we did this movement was 3 months ago, and you did this much. Look at what you did now. Right? But it helps them because there's always something new. We're also not doing the same thing the same way all the time, so they're not getting beat up. Right? We are majority box squat. Right? Box squat, easier to recover from when done correctly. We teach very simple movements. We do 0 Olympic variants in our room. It's all squat variants, bench press variants, speed pulls, usually from a sumo stance on our speed pulls. Don't do a ton of heavy deadlift with our general athletes. Usually our power lifters are the ones that get a little bit more of that. But yeah, we rotate stuff and we raise all special strengths at once. And why we like conjugate is, and this is Conjugate U, Nate Harvey. If any of you have never read that book and you want to learn more about conjugate training, he makes it really simple for people to understand. Nate was the strength coach at the University of Buffalo for 10 years, and he ran conjugate method with their Olympic sports athletes in Buffalo and had a lot of success. But we talk about conjugate method helps us to develop the force equation, right? What is athletics? Generating force. We increase our ability to move mass, we generate more force. We increase our ability to accelerate, we generate more force. Right? You can't tell me a kid doesn't get more powerful if they can move 135 in the bench press at 0.8 meters per second, and then 3 months later can move 225 at that same speed. That kid's generating more force now. Let's go, take that to the field. Right? That's why we like conjugate. We work that force equation. Yeah. As I said, max effort's gonna raise their ability, right, to be stronger. Right? Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. Mark Bell. Right? We're able to generate force because we're strong. Right? Dynamic effort teaches our ability to accelerate. The repeated effort or the rep effort stuff we do in our accessories, right, that over and over and over again builds up our weak points and helps to keep them from breaking down. Right? We want athletes that can apply force fast and do it over and over again. We got to train both sides of the force equation, and we do every single day or every single week. The 3 methods of training. Now, there's some videos in here that probably aren't going to play and aren't going to work for us. But when you watch it back, you'll be able to see there's some examples of kids going through these things. Right? What is the max effort method? Right? The max effort method, we want to strain. Usually, it's above 90% of a 1 rep max. We do 1s, 3s, 5s, doubles. Right? Something where you have to strain on the bar. Now, key thing here: we strain on the bar, but technique breakdown cannot happen. Right? Once technique breakdown is starting to happen, now we're not training the muscles that we want to train with that movement. So we teach them how to strain and push against heavy loads. But as soon as we get the knees folding in, the backs rounding over, that's now too heavy. That's not max effort work anymore. Hold good positions. That's where it starts. Holding good positions, straining on the bar, build that intramuscular coordination because you have to hold those good positions under load. And there's a video of a kid doing a max effort. Oh, hey. See if it works. Nope. It's not going to work. Yeah, error. Oh, hold on, we're good. Right, you'll see it. In this, he does a triple. Right, first rep's good. This is a pin press. Right, got the bar up there. Right, he's pausing on the pins, pressing back up again. Right, first 2 reps, pretty solid. 3rd rep, elbows start to flare out and come in. Done. No longer holding good technique. And that helps to keep our kids safe while we do this. All right, that's big Corey Baker there. He is playing defensive line at Saginaw Valley now for us. One of our best kids. Okay, how do we rotate through? As I said, 1 to 5 rep max. Right, we do different squat and bench variations, not so many deadlift variations. We try to put a new challenge to them every week. All right, within our 4-day-a-week training cycle with the goal of straining. Our kids that are not, they're in our class cycle or they're training twice a week with us because they're in season sports, right? They don't hit max effort work every week, they'll hit it every other week within that given movement. So if they do max effort lower, they're a 2-day-a-week kid, they do max effort lower this week, next week they'll do max effort upper, they'll speed lower. Okay? We want to strain, we don't want to miss. Missing lifts does not help us at all. We're intentional with teaching that. Okay? Now that we get into the dynamic effort method, and this is where we're loading the bar anywhere between 30 and 75% of a 1 rep max. And I know, right, very rarely do I get to talk to a room full of strength coaches. 30% of a 1 rep max, coach, plus 25% accommodating resistance. Right? So it's fast, it's explosive when we're down in those ranges. That's our explosive strength. We want them to move the bar as fast as possible. Right? And we have an OVR unit that we use to help teach intent. We were over visiting Trevor at U of M last week, looking at perch cameras to help us to teach this intent. But to be honest with you guys, those metrics are awesome, but you can look at it and see, is it moving fast or not? And this is a kid, Carson Conley, doing a fat bar bench here against 80 pounds of band tension, and he's moving it as fast as he can. None of the links are gonna work. We'll be able to get it. But we want to train that CNS to move fast. What 2 dynamic effort waves do we bounce back and forth through? Explosive strength, speed strength. Right? And those are the percentages that we run on those. Usually on our speed days, we're always going to have accommodating resistance, bands or chains. Usually about 25% of a 1 rep max in the band or chain. What's the difference between the two? Bands pull the bar to earth faster than the rate of gravity. Chains, the links lay on the floor. That's what makes them different. Okay? And we rotate every 3 weeks. We build up a 3-week wave. 4th week, we're going to change the bar, maybe change the movement, and then run another cycle between explosive strength and speed strength, bounce back and forth. This 3-week wave was explosive strength. Next 3-week wave, speed strength with the new bar. And as we go through the yearly cycle, they hit all those things with all the different bars that they have maxes with. And our velocity goals, right, for those that want those numbers, right, this is what we run. 0.8 to 1 meter per second, that's our explosive strength. 0.6 to 0.8, that's our speed strength. Then we start to get into below 0.6, getting into our sub-maximal and maximal work. That repetition effort method, right? This is where we build tissue. Okay? This is where we bring up our weak areas. We like to pick traction-based movements. I got that from Matt Wenning, where he talks about like picking accessory movements you've just compressed, right? You just had a bunch of axial loading with a heavy squat, right? Now picking traction-based movements to help you, right? We're one of the few places that our reverse hypers are not there for decoration. They get used every single session. Right? To the point where, we need more of them. Right? They use them every single session on a lower body's day. We do them in different ways, but it's a traction-based movement. Rep effort method, making weak areas stronger, building tissue where appropriate, and bringing up the chain. Right? We all know the phrase, right? The chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Well, this is where we build up our weak links. And the cool part about this stuff, guys, when we do those smaller single joint movements or traction-based movements, they're easier to recover from. So we're bringing up weak points and our kids can recover. And that's most important, right? If they're not recovering from the training, they're not growing with the training. This is what our example training week looks like. Okay. Well, right here, what you see is West Side. I'm sorry. How West Side would run it. West Side Barbell and Louis Simmons. Usually I have a slide in there about Louis. I don't know if I deleted it out or whatnot. Sorry, Lou. But they would run max effort work. They would go max lower Monday, max effort work upper on Wednesday. Friday, they would do dynamic work or speed lower. And then Sunday, they would do speed upper. Right? For us, this is how we run it. We got a 5-day week where they come in. Right? Any of those 5 days they can train, right? But we start the week with either max effort upper or lower on day 1. And then we go to the 2 dynamic days on day 2 and day 3, finish with a max effort day on day 4. So sometimes it's not ideal, but sometimes we have kids that train Monday through Thursday. Law of 72 hours says that we should not train on Wednesday and have that open gap. Do we always get that from high school populations? No. Right? But because of how we rotate movements, they're high school kids, they can recover. If they run 4 straight days, I'd rather have them get the training in. Right? Kids that are in season or in our class that meets every other day, we just work through the days. We got a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, max effort lower on Monday. Wednesday, they're going to do dynamic upper. Friday, they're going to do dynamic lower. The following Tuesday, when we see them again, they'll do the max upper next week of the cycle. And don't tell anyone from Disney that I took that. This is how our sessions break down, right? About 76, 75 minutes. We have a 90-minute block in our classes, so we have to give them time to change before and after. We have a little bit of 5-minute wiggle room there in the middle, but this is how it works, right? We have our tissue prep work, right? Then we move to our warm-up, a jump throw sprint period, main lift, secondary lift, our accessory circuits, our supersets, mobility reset, clean up the room, reset the room, and we're out. If I didn't have 75 minutes and we had an hour or 45 minutes, we'd move some things around, maybe move the accessories around a little bit. But it's completely adaptable to any situation time-wise for us, if we needed to. So the first thing they do when they come in, they're gonna fill out a pre-screen. What do we get on them? Body weight for a relative strength number, resting heart rate, whether or not they drank any energy drinks or stimulants before coming into the room, which could affect the heart rate, and how many hours they slept the night before. Why? Well, got a data pool to pull from, right? Johnny comes walking in looking like somebody shot his dog multiple days in a row. Well, now we're gonna adjust training for that kid. You know, because, hey, we coach high school populations, we know they're involved in a million different things, right? They're involved in a million different things, but that pre-screen data helps us to make informed decisions. We actually had a kid that was having some cardiac issues, and we were able to go back in that pre-screen data and help provide that to the cardiologist to help the kid get better. Right? We showed when his heart rate, resting heart rate, spiked, and around what time period they were able to utilize that to figure out what was going on with them. That's just something quick right at the top of Team Village that they fill out when they come in. Then they go right into mobility work. And we teach all these things. We have our toolbox, the lacrosse balls, the band traction, body tempering is something we're big on at our building. Mobility things, they're knocking that stuff out when they come in. They walk through the door. Our attendance board is a smart board on the screen. They go over, they sign in, they immediately go fill out their pre-screen and start their tissue prep work every day. From there, we go into a potentiated warm-up. And this is something that we took from Matt Wenning. Matt Wenning and his Wenning warm-ups, the potentiation style warm-up, where we're picking 2 movement patterns, or 2 weak points, and 1 movement pattern. And what are we doing with that? We're setting it up and we're going 3 to 4 sets. We put them on a 30-second timer. So they're trying to get 20 to 30 reps in that given exercise within 30 seconds. Timer goes off, 15 seconds, get up, move to the next spot. That low intensity volume is the thing that we attribute most to building the connective tissue density. And we build work capacity. Think about it. Our kids can come in and do 100 body weight squats, 100 lying hamstring curls, and 100 dumbbell RDLs, and then within 20 minutes get underneath the bar and break an all-time record in the squat. I think that's work capacity. Normally, if they didn't have that ability to recover, that would negatively affect them to be able to perform. It doesn't. It builds our base level of conditioning, base level of work capacity where they can train and then take that into their sport. At the same time, building up weak points and building ligament and tendon density. Guys, we haven't had, I'm not going to say it, that 3-letter ligament that often gets torn. I had one. We haven't had one of those in our compliant populations. I think Corey was the last one, if I can remember. Right? You usually see him in the clinic. I don't have one. Right? Again, knocking on wood, right? Because there's a lot of things that go into that. But I think the ligament and tendon density from the warm-ups helps that, guys. Then we go into our jump, throw, sprint lane. So from here, the way and Coach kind of alluded to it in the beginning, we have a small indoor track right outside our weight room with 4 lanes. It's like 1/10 of a mile around, real tight turns. From there, our kids transition out there. Quick dynamic warm-up, and then we split them off to do some sort of jump, throw, or sprint within that day. We wave these volumes over 3 weeks. We rotate through all the different things. We take data on all these things. So, for example, right now, our cycle, kids come out, we got a big group, we're gonna split them 4 ways. After the dynamic warm-up, there's a group going over to do standing broad jump. And the way we get more volume with that, spread them out, have them do sets of 3 broad jumps. All right, last set now, come over to the mat and jump, we're gonna measure. Another group's doing a med ball throw variation. Another group's running a sprint variation on our laser timing gates. Another group's down on the floor. This cycle is the L drill. Run 2 reps, pick up the stopwatch, time the last 2, report it in Team Builder. Show progress, look at the leaderboard. All right, you got half a second faster from 3 months ago when we did it. All right, this is where they just go out and be athletic. And we try to limit this a little bit within the session, but it's always there, so it's always being steadily dripped in day after day after day. All right, so you see how many efforts we're running there. The kids all get faster, more explosive, jump higher, everybody wins. I think this is a video so like this is our gym floor, so this is looking down from the top. The video is not gonna play, but this is a summer group. So obviously a lot of kids in there. They're running 5-10-5. And in the summertime, we have some interns and other coaches that come in to help us. So you see the coaches are timing this. But during the school year, when it's just myself and Phil Jacobs, who teaches with me every day, who's gonna retire at the end of the year, gonna miss that guy. We split it up and we make student leaders do it. I think it's more important to have a metric and get data than it is to just guess. And to be honest, the efforts get better when they know that there's a score with it. Back when we didn't used to record stuff every day, I'd go through the motions. Now they know that their buddy's gonna get on them when they look at the leaderboard and see, bro, you ran a 10-second 5-10-5? What were you doing? And we see stupid numbers and we go in and take them out, of course, because they are kids. But that's how we run through all that. And that's like a 10-minute period. Warm up, bang, go. Wave it over 3 weeks, get more volume, change it on the 4th week. This is another example of when they're warming up. So you'll see like we have kids all around the track. And they're going on our dynamic warm-up and they're moving, they're doing everything we need to do, then they quickly transition into their different drills. Then we get into the main lift of the day. With the main lift of the day, gonna be some sort of squat, usually squat or bench press variation, sometimes deadlift stuff with our power lifters. And either max effort work or dynamic work is trained in the main lift. So some things that we see, right? You know, straight bar versus chains, cambered bar, wide squats, right? Sumo deadlifts while standing on plates, right? We just change things up and do different things within it. Max effort day, strain, dynamic day, move it fast. This is a video of a kid doing, so that's kind of what our room looks like there. This is a video of a kid doing a straight bar, 14-inch box squat, right, versus chains. Going into training, right? Lopez, you see Spencer Briggs there in the back? You see him right there? Yeah, knows that guy. All right, next page, next one. All right, this is an example of dynamic effort work, and I wish we could play this one because there's 6 kids in this group, and they're all going to get a set within 1 minute and 15 seconds. With the dynamic effort work, they move fast. Get underneath the bar. We do lower number of repetitions within the set and just do more sets. So like our standard for bench press is 9 sets of 3. They're coming in on dynamic day, bang, 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 get out, next person underneath the bar. The guys on the side will load it for you. Get locked in, get ready to go. So in 1 minute and 15 seconds, 6 kids rotate through this group. And that's, now, hey, sometimes you got to walk over and kick them in the ass a little bit to get them to move. Absolutely, we all have that. But when they do it and they do it right, it's effective. You get 9 sets of 3 for 6 kids in 12 minutes. Right? And this is all on a timer within our training session. So again, please check out the videos afterwards. Then we go into a secondary movement. Secondary movement complements the main movement. Usually this is where we're going to throw, on the lower day, we're going to throw some single leg variants in. We're going to do good mornings, right? Stuff to build up the main weak points. What's the main weak point of the lower body? Posterior chain, right? So more good morning work in there with different things. Tricep work on the upper body, right? Things that, and these are usually going to be heavy. Volumes can be anywhere from 5s to 10s on your sets, usually about 3 to 4 sets on there to get the amount of time we need. This is the most conjugate thing we've ever done. This is actually in my basement. Right? That is Phil's son, Rhett, who got sick of training with Dad during COVID, so came and trained with me at my house. He's doing cambered bar, hanging plate, belt with band around feet, good mornings. It's the most conjugate thing ever. It's a good time. All right, what is it? It's fun. It's fun. We're training the posterior chain. Then we get into our accessory work. Every day, we have 6 exercises on our accessories, and they are programmed and kept in the program usually for 6 to 8 weeks. Why? First 2 weeks, they got to understand how to do them and do them correctly. Then from there, we're able to drive whatever it is, weight, reps, band tension, drive it up. But within these categories we run on there, the movements are picked to fit the categories to build the weak points. On the lower side, we're going to do some sort of hip extension hamstring, usually the reverse hyper, knee flexion hamstring, usually a GHR, obliques or side abs, vertical pull, again for traction on the lower body day because we just compressed, vertical pull on that lower body day, single leg variant if we haven't done it already in the secondary lift. If we've done the single leg variant in the secondary lift, we'll put an RDL or some sort of hip hinge in there. And then some sort of adductor movement, right? Groiners. Right now we got Thompson hips, bands on the rail, open and close, right? Working those adductors. On the upper side, you're going to get some sort of horizontal row, trap work, scap and upper back, tricep work, front abs, and just because it's fun, guys, bicep curls. And we let them pick whatever one you want to do. Right, there's a drop-down list on Team Builder here. Right, we just asked that if you do this one for 6 weeks, well, when we change, let's do something different. Right, if you've been doing band work, let's switch to easy bar, or let's switch to dumbbells. Purely to have some fun, build some bicep size and confidence that comes with that. Right, and that's how they run through that. And that work is done in supersets. They have 30 seconds to do their set. They have 30 seconds to move to the other exercise. So if Coach and I are working together, we got reverse hypers paired with single leg RDLs. Tone goes off, ding. He's doing his set of reverse hypers. I'm doing my set of RDLs. We get our set in, or the tone dings again. Now we switch. When we have more kids than we have equipment, there's another kid. As soon as he finishes his set of reverse hypers, she's jumping on to get her set in because the 30-second rest period is the same. So now we just took 4 kids and put them through 2 pieces of equipment within 1 minute time frame. And this is a video that shows the kids doing accessory work. You'll see there's motion happening everywhere. We take the 6 exercises and split them up. I don't really care about the order that they do them in because we're just hitting all those different weak areas within it. If coach and I start at the first superset, well, then after we finish all 3 of our sets on the timer, we walk over to the iPad, we have 1.5 minutes to track, move to superset 2. Ding, do superset 2. 1.5 minutes to track, move to superset 3. Ding, then we're done. And that's how we rotate through that. And I wish you guys could see the videos because it probably make a lot more sense than me just talking about it, but please check them out. But then the last thing we do is a mobility reset period. So this is where now they could do some of the same things that they did in their tissue prep period or something else, right? This is where a lot of our body tempering happens. That girl there with all the body tempering rollers on her, that's Gracie Burns. She's a field hockey player at Michigan State. The kid hanging upside down there, that's actually our athletic director's kid. Cal, he's down at Wittenberg playing basketball. But we do some sort of mobility at the end, right, to help them. Body tempering goes a long way. I have 2 cylinders out in my truck if anybody wants to check it out at the end. I didn't bring them in, but I'll bring them in if you want to check it out. Dead hangs, shoulder traction, body tempering, low back protocol. A lot of this stuff comes from Donnie Thompson. A lot of times with that low back protocol, we're showing you the one where he's completely suspended. Some of you are going, okay, how do you manage that when 6 of them are doing it at once? Putting the band on the side of a rack where their upper back is able to touch the ground, much safer. They don't get to do that without me or one of our other coaches standing right there. And the traction effect is pretty much the same with the upper back on the ground. That's what they do at the end. This is just a little bit about body tempering. Anybody get certified in body tempering? I forget, a few years ago in Detroit. Right? That's where Donnie was there doing a certification. We were doing this stuff before I got the certification. The certification just really made it clear of what to do, and we enjoy it. If you're not familiar with Donnie Thompson and his recovery stuff, check him out. Tons of good stuff to help the kids to feel better, right? Because, hey, if they can come in, they train hard for us, we can have them walking out feeling better, or they come in and they're a little bit beat up and we can send them out feeling better, they're more likely to listen to what we have to say. And that comes from Donnie Thompson. If you're unfamiliar with body tempering, short version, the inverse of foam rolling. Heavy cylinder gets put on passive muscle, rolls that tissue out. If you've never done it before, it's our ace in the hole, guys. Like we've had it where kids have like tight backs or whatever in football games, we're rolling them out in between series to keep them in the game, right? Because they had a issue going on. It is the best for recovery. It is the best for tissue prep pre-training, in my opinion, and post. I only wish I had somebody to train with every day that could roll me out. I train by myself. Right? And this is a video of a kid rolling out the posterior chain. That's the most popular one we do, right? Rolling the posterior chain where they'll roll both hamstrings, both calves. They'll roll a single hamstring, they'll roll the back, back adjustments happen. And we teach them how to do this, and we have a system how to do this. So even though that's a 110-pound cylinder there, we don't have many issues with kids getting hurt using this equipment because we have protocols and we teach them. Okay? Why our program works, right? I don't need to read you all these things. We've talked about all of them. Okay? trains everything simultaneously. We use all three methods of training. We try to eliminate plateaus through constant variation, right? And intentional variation. We target weak points when we train. We build power and speed. It all happens concurrently within the same cycle. The ones that have practices and games to play, they just get those exposures a little bit less frequent than the off-season kids that don't have as much going on. That's how it works. So I guess now we'll open the floor. Anybody have any questions for me?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Coach.
for your in-season athletes, let's say you're only seeing them twice a week for 30 minutes. How are you rotating all that around?
So usually we're going to see them for a full session. So for a 75-minute session. So the way we rotate it, one day they're going to do an upper day, one day they're going to do a lower day. If I had a coach that all they could give me was 30 minutes, probably shorter warm up, some sort of main lift, 2 accessories. We'll do jump, throw, sprint another day, or they'll run at their practice and do jumping activities at a practice or game. That's probably how we put that up.
You take a cycle and put it to multiple weeks. So if you have your 4-day plan, right?
Yeah,
Push that over 2 weeks.
that's exactly how we do it. When we have kids that don't train the full 4-day-a-week cycle, we just push it to the next week. Right, 2-day-a-week folks, right, they're training 2 days. That 4-day week 1 of our cycle gets pushed over 2 weeks. Same things. They just get the same exposures, just less frequently so they can recover for sport.
Any favorite sports to train?
Probably football, because they're our most compliant group, because our head football coach pushes them to be compliant with us. I enjoy them. I enjoy training. Obviously, our power lifters are fun because I coach that too. But I think what I enjoy the most is not even a sport group. It's the kid that finds their home in the weight room that isn't really an athlete. Right? We had a kid a couple years ago, came to us, heavy-set kid, not very confident, barely spoke to people. As he spent time, he started to build some confidence in the weight room. Everybody loved him. We started calling him the Tribal Chief. If any of you are WWE fans, when a certain wrestler named Roman Reigns comes into the arena, everybody holds up one finger. So what did we do when our Tribal Chief came walking into the weight room? Acknowledge. Where's all my fans? Any of my fans out there? There we go. There we go. We got one right there. Thank you. Yeet. Yeah, you're with me. All right. I like those kids because I think we make the biggest impact on them. The training's the same. The programming's the same. What we're doing is the same. But we're changing their lives. Well, they're changing their own life through being a part of our program.
What would you say the biggest learning curve is for new kids coming in? Like I'd imagine next year you got your first semester, second semester. Somebody who's coming in the middle of the year. What's the learning curve for a new kid coming into the weight room, and how much are you adjusting the training to get them acclimated and being able to go through it effectively?
I think they become, so what he asked, what's the learning curve for new kids or when they come in? Usually about a 3-week cycle, right? They're pretty proficient. What I try to do is intentionally put a kid with a more experienced kid that I know is going to be that person that shares, right? So if Doug's been training with us for years, I know he's somebody that's going to want to bring other people along with him, right? And Dan comes in as a new thing. Hey, Dan, why don't you train with Doug, right? He's going to kind of give you the basics, and I'm going to work the room and coach the details. And because we have systems and routines, because these sessions have the same periods, right, with different things within those periods, they get used to the method, they get used to the system and how it works. And again, within 3 weeks, between a responsible, more experienced kid and me going around and coaching details, or other coaches coaching details, they get pretty proficient. Everything from a 5th grader on up. And if they need to adjust movements like bars that are too heavy or stuff like that, we change them. We change as little as possible to allow that kid to train within our method.
like kind of similar in terms of push workouts through like and make them separately?
What do you ask? Do we adjust during game weeks? Usually, not very much. The way we adjust is in movement intensity. So, say we have, we used the example earlier with the soccer team that has 3 games that week, and that kid might be a little beat up. If they're showing that, well, maybe their max effort lower main lift movement that day is a sled drag, much less taxing, right? The upper body side doesn't seem to beat them up too much. It's usually the lower body side. So we change movements. Sometimes it might be, hey, you got 3 soccer games this week. During that main lift time, take that sled, give me 5 laps around with a quarter on it, help you recover. And then we go train the accessories heavy because we can recover from those in 12 hours. Now we still built the weak points. We didn't just say, oh, hey, chill. We still built up the weak areas. We just took a little bit of the fatigue out.
Said you use a bunch of specialty bars.
Mhm.
You had to pick one bar to use, one bar to get
Mhm.
everybody. What kind of specialty bar you get?
Which specialty bar? Now, everybody says the safety squat bar, which I love. We have Elite FTS yoke bars. I think they're the best in the business with that. And I think we get the most carryover from it, right? Because they have to now. It's easier on the shoulders, but we're able to train the upper back and have to lock in. There's a lot of different things we could do with that. I actually learned from him last week doing split squats. We put those in this week, by the way. Doing split squats with a safety squat bar, using a band to hold the bar on so they could do half field split squats. Great, great movement, coach. We put them in this week. Personal preference, I love the bow bar or the buffalo bar. It's my favorite bar to squat with, just because it fits so nice in. And we bench with that bar as well. Yeah, we're good. Says I still have 2 minutes and 50 seconds on that little clock. My little clock says I still have 2 minutes and 45 seconds if we have one more. Good? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.